The worst thing about being at public school, and especially about being at Eton, is that you become cut off from the real world. It's like being in a monastery, you're very enclosed. When you go into town, it's a bit like going abroad. You try desperately to fit in, but the people consider you as some sort of upper-class freak. It's quite sad, really.
Well, you can tell an Italian from a mile off.
A snob. My mum says they're snobs, but then that's not fair because like, a lot of them aren't. But because, you know...
Because of the image, yeah, but say that. That's good, say that.
But that's, you know...
And the tails, I mean, they're so pointless now.
Tell you what's happened in my life. I've gone to posh little school from 5 to 8, and then I went to prep school, and then I went to Eton. My father said when he left Eton that he wouldn't send his children to Eton.
Because he doesn't know anything else, really, does he?
Well, no, it's not. It wasn't that. It was because he felt he couldn't not send me to Eton. This is schoolyard. This is the main bit.
Is this where the Queen came?
Yeah, the Queen stood on that step over there.
Stand there, girl. This is where the Queen's
And that's the founder, the bloke who made Eton, bless his soul.
Yeah, you had to walk on a certain side of the
You don't have to walk the wrong way around the front because you've got to defend him with your sword.
How many rolls have you got there?
About 100,000.
Endless
Oh
rules.
my God. Yeah, but what is
Books about that.
We've got a book about this bigger rules.
It's very easy to scoff at tradition, but actually tradition is a tremendous strength.
Do you go to the Scottish country dancing on Sunday nights?
Well, actually, the mistress, the dancing teacher from...
We've never assumed that an academic education is enough of itself. And those of us who teach at Eton do so, I think, because we feel that we are dealing not just with boys' minds, but with people's personalities. But I think that in a boarding school you do learn quite a lot about human nature by living together with other people. And I would hope that a boy would leave Eton with quite a good understanding of other people, and also, of course, with some of the values by which good men have lived in the past.
Eton is said to turn out these great individuals that stride forth and lead the nation. What it actually does is a factory churning out the same sort of people over and over again. And very few people, because of the restrictions placed on them by the school, manage to break out of the mould that's imposed upon them.
People kind of say, oh, well, I'm going to be individual, I'm going to stand out. But you suddenly find it's just much easier to conform. It's just much easier just to, because, you know, there's so much pressure. Everyone else does it. And
after, 550 years of being told how it's the best school in the world, it believes it and expects you to be part of the best school in the world. If you don't conform, eventually you'll end up being thrown out. The school doesn't care because it takes 2 seconds for them to pull someone in who will conform and take your place.
Stand by the switch on, wait a minute.
What? Socks.
Those are to go in, those are home things, those are the bottom drawer.
Okay, switch it on, see if that works.
Phew.
A tailcoat hanging up in a bag downstairs on a rail. I mean, where is the other tailcoat?
Is it here?
Yeah, well, we better get it then.
Where's it gone on
When do we put up our posters?
This, actually, we've got the wrong way around. So
Because they can do it the wrong way. Which is
So we'll be doing that in a few minutes' time. But the main thing is this tailcoat. Have you lost
well,
one?
we've got, yes, Billings and Edmonds seem to be very on the ball, and they were all hanging
Oh, yeah,
up.
they were all there?
Yes, they were all
Well,
there.
in that case, the tailcoat that's in the other house is another A. Lewis. We will call him on.
Well, I mean, we'd be very happy to, if you all recognise. Good to see you. Well, I know, and here we are. This is, yes, Bruce. Yes, Rupert, who is starting. Oh, that's terrific. Yes, it's nice to have moral support, isn't it?
Yes. My study in 2 minutes. My study in 2 minutes. So cheer up. It's not going to be torture. It's going to be fun. Better say bye-bye. Well, we'll see you all the time.
When they first left, I felt a bit sad, a bit scared. Just kind of sense that you had to just make your own way now.
If we just stop here for a moment, this building that you can see here is School Hall. Now, if you look in your timetables, you'll notice you're all going to School Hall tomorrow morning. Do you see what it is? The headmaster is going to talk to you tomorrow in this very large building.
Now, we put the stud in first, in the back, through that little gap, do you see? So that the flat piece is on the inside, because that goes against your neck. And you fix the collar from the inside like that. Now we get the front stud, then the collar of that side next. There we are. And then that tucks down. And at the end of all that, it should look like that. And that's what you look like in the morning when it's on.
Splendid. Don't leave the office till you've seen it, please. Ready?
Yeah.
Next, please.
Oh, no, if I smile.
Good. Can you get your collar inside your coat, please?
Okay.
Fine.
Yeah.
Well, it's a little bit better. It's brown. Well done. That's it. Good. Now, towards the camera, please.
New boys are processed pretty quickly in the first couple of days.
Don't leave the office till you've seen it.
It's the same for everybody. Except over in college, where the king's scholars have some sort of secret ceremony. At least that's what they say, but the rest of us have never seen it.
Ego Martinus Michael Carolus, Barrow Chartris de Amis Field, Praepositus Huiusque Collegi.
It's not a secret ceremony at all. In fact, it's the first opportunity for the new collegers to meet the provost. These are the cleverest boys at Eton and are officially accepted into the foundation by him, and he employs a Latin citation which is supposed to include words used by Henry VI.
Per Jesum Christum Dominum Nostrum. Amen.
It means something roughly along the lines that you should be good and truthful, and when you've grown up, we hope you'll be of service to God and the state.
Giul Shake. In numrum scholarium regiorem collegi doculis et verecundus et casti integreque ad lescens into equalis tuus. Ut tandem, ex scholare disciplinae vadas, caevis honestus sec patria utilis, ad maiorem Dei gloriam per Jesum Christum Dominum nostrum. Amen. That's it. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And congratulations on becoming collegers in the 550th anniversary of the foundation of the college. And you go back in direct descent to the original foundation of Henry VI, just as I do. And I hope you all have an absolutely marvelous time here. And I may say, I think you're very lucky to be in college.
Tibi laus et gloria et gratia rumatio, Ote Sancta Trinitas, tibi laus.
There's more ceremony and ritual in college, but given that it's the oldest part of Eton, that's hardly surprising. And the fact is, we really rather enjoy it.
Celebrem vita regit, quando nox sepulcra tegit, Ote Sancta Trinitas, tibi laus et gloria, laudemus in saecula, laudemus in saecula. Amen. Amen.
As someone coming to Eton who's paying the full fees wouldn't get much change out of £10,000 a year, but the parents of a King's Scholar would pay a maximum of half fees. And if the parents feel that they have a good case for further support, then this is always forthcoming from the school. So we find that quite a large number of boys in college are paying virtually nothing at all. In order to get to Eton, boys have to pass the common entrance exam or do very well on the scholarship exam. But Eton is a very wealthy institution, and about 20% of all boys at Eton gain some form of financial support from the school.
I reckon my cooking career really took off when I realised that the frying pan was out and the casserole was in. That was his first step.
Okay, so this is College Hall. What I'd like to do is to show you one little tiny thing down there.
Wait, it's all kind of whistling.
Sometimes. Yeah. Then you fall backwards and hit your wicket.
Yeah, that's right.
If you come through here, I want you to come to this wall. Now, if you'd like to gather round, come round, everybody. Can you see this panel here? Now, you remember I said to you that Queen Elizabeth used to come here and watch plays before Shakespeare. Well, when she came, she liked to give the boys presents. And if you actually see this, Queen Elizabetha, can you read that? That's in Latin. Ad nos. What does ad nos mean? To us, that's right. Gave. Can you read that? October 10, that's right, 10, 2 loaves in a mess, 1596. Now, what is a mess? What is a mess? It's like tea, because you're all in messes, aren't you? Even though you're not in college. This was written by a boy in 1596.
Mr. Meredith showed us where all our schoolrooms were for the next day, where the chapel was and where all the game seals were. There are so many, and it's quite hard to find.
You always feel at the beginning of the term that this time everything is possible, and people come back very much inclined to feel that this is a fresh start. I very much enjoy the start of the Michaelmas half because it is the beginning of everything again.
Come in.
It's concerning Miss Florence trip. I think you got a letter from our housemaster.
We got to arrive at Florence in time to, find where we're going to stay.
Because if we take the later plane, we'll get caught up in the middle of France.
The day on which long leave starts,
yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. What I wasn't clear from your letter was what is the purpose of the trip? Is this a project for A-level
History of art.
It's history of art. They're all very keen on it down at the History of Art department.
You've got a whole week of long leave. Why do you need an extra day?
Well, it's just really, just for the flights, really, because,
Because the flight that we'd have to miss, probably the whole of
You'd have to miss the whole morning, I think.
Yeah.
Still, I must say what you wrote seemed a very good scheme, so I think I'll say yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much,
You can
sir.
tell your housemaster.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
We are a privileged school. We're very lucky. We have wonderful buildings. We have a very good staff. We have a very good tradition, which helps tremendously. It would be quite wrong if we aimed to be anything other than a very good academic school. So we do pay a lot of attention to that. We do expect boys to work hard. And we do expect masters to teach well and hard.
I'd like to start by welcoming very much the new boys who are here this morning.
It's certainly been traditional at Eton to educate the whole man. I think it's probably only in the last 30 years or so that the academic part of that education has been considered as important as it now is.
May I suggest that you write a very brief note to the lower master if he's prepared to accept them, and he and I will see that any ideas you have are considered along with the others. And I'd like to tell you all about the changes in the teaching staff, just so that you know who people are, if any of them teach you.
Gentlemen, I have very great pleasure in introducing you to Tanaka-san, who is joining us from Musashi High School in Tokyo. First Japanese teacher here. Tanaka-san.
Nice to meet you. You must be proud of yourself. You are the first 16 boys who took up something Eton has been ignorant of for 550 years, okay? Now, when I call your name, please answer, hi. Hi, in Japanese, okay? Hi. Hi. This means yes. Yes. So raise your hand and hi. How do I pronounce this name?
Who do you trust? Do you trust the flatterers, Bushy, Bagot and Green? What if a pretty girl comes up to you and says, oh, I really love you, Charles? Well, you can't really trust her, can you? I mean, you might think she looks very beautiful, you might say she's fine, but suppose she wants to be queen, you know? It's a very tricky situation. Now, this is the situation that Shakespeare is beginning to introduce to us in Richard II.
Meanwhile, Louis XVIII hauled himself into his corsets and vamoosed quickly across the Belgian frontier. It wasn't a very good recommendation for the Bourbon succession. Instead of standing firm, he sent Ney off to bring Bonaparte back in a cage. Instead of that, Ney, of course, joined him, and meanwhile, Louis XVIII took refuge in Belgium.
There is a characteristic tension about Eton, which is that it is clearly a school with a great history and a great tradition, which is avid to be part of the modern world.
Yes. Slide it up through the edge there. Lock the clamp. Now go all the way up to 40 on the calibrated scale. Okay?
Discount.
It gave it to me. I promise.
Thing to do, cancel that window you've got showing now, lift your mouse up, move it forward on the table.
Take long to do it, only takes about 3 minutes.
It's quite easy, but I have to do 4 lots of work each night or something like that. Or 3. So it's quite a lot of work. But it's not too bad, really.
I like the rugby instead of football because I play. And work-wise, I mean, there's a lot to do, but then you've got to work hard to do well, so it's good.
They set us lots of work. In your old school, you were told what to do, and there were set times to do it. But here, you just do your work when you want to.
There is a lot too much work here. I think definitely too much work. I mean, you get so much of it.
For a lot of people, the frustration that can be caused by being shut up all the time and not being able to express yourself, not being able to do what any other person of your age would probably be doing, is that your work suffers.
Once you're in sixth form, you'd expect to be treated more grown up and have more to look forward to.
We are still treated like 12-year-olds in that we're locked up in our houses every night.
I mean, I was quite looking forward to sort of things like TAP. I mean, TAP I found is a bit of a huge anticlimax. It's full of endless people talking about football and talking about what beer they're drinking.
Foster's, please. And you got loads of young boys to film.
You pervert.
So what's that fee? 6.
It's disgusting.
6.
We got in here.
Is it going to cost something? No, seriously, the kid just jumped and said to her, look, she's doing great
Really poor.
Still haven't been selected.
I used to be at a state school, and quite honestly, we weren't too happy with what they were teaching. So my parents looked into other schools that I could get through music scholarships, and we discovered Eton. So I took a music scholarship, and they said they would give me a place.
Take it from the animal town. What speed do you take this?
It's very fast.
So you get it absolutely?
Yeah. When I first came, I didn't realise when you're in the lowest block, you're really sort of the under people, and you're sort of expected to do all the nasty jobs and things.
You've gone into half tempo.
Oh, yeah.
That's only twice that speed. You've suddenly gone into half speed. Try it again.
As I'd come from a state school, that's quite unusual. My accent wasn't quite sort of what they were used to, so they weren't too keen. When I go home, I see all my best friends, and they tell me that my accent's changed. When I first arrived here, it was very hard work. At the old school, it just wasn't. You know, it was sort of 9 till 3. You can go home, and nothing else for the rest of the evening.
The place where you always get in the wrong place.
But here, it's just all day work.
The second time, so we're not doing the repeat. Okay? 1, 2.
I play for the first orchestra, the first band, a big band, a brass group, and I sing in the choir. And occasionally you get plays which need music accompaniments, so I do those as well. There's a lot of sports you can do here, it's just I don't have time because of music.
Right, now you can swim, can you, Rupert?
Yeah, I
You
hope
sure?
so. This is the test.
Do you know what you've got to do?
No, you've got to do 3 lengths, haven't you?
You've got to dive in or jump in, swim down to the end, turn around, come back on your front. So that's 2 lengths on your front.
Yeah.
And then when I say go, you swim 1 length on your back. It's easiest to do a sculling stroke, keeping your hands beneath the water, otherwise you sink. Down to the end, climb out, and if you do all that, you've passed. So in your own time, there's no race. Off you go. It's easier doing breaststroke, Rupert.
It took me about a month to feel at home and to settle in. Probably a month, so you could go downstairs and talk to the older boys. If they asked you a question, you could answer it without kind of feeling, oh, I mustn't say this, I mustn't say that.
Keep doing breaststroke, it's easier.
I enjoy the sport most, because that's what I'm naturally quite good at. I'm not very bright by the standards here, but I enjoy sport. There's lots of things to do.
Okay, just tread water there. Is that easy?
Sorry?
Is it easy?
Yeah, quite. Tiring.
How's the football going? You gonna get in the team?
Yeah, I think a team, but
Which one?
C3. Hopefully.
Hopefully. You've got to be going for C1, hopefully.
I know. But I wasn't told. I didn't really get much chance.
Right. On your back to the end, and remember, keep your hands under the water. It's a lot easier.
Most people at Eton are members of a club or society of some kind. My friend Tom's just taken over as editor of the Arts Review magazine. He's got really interesting plans for it.
I mean, it's not smutty. It's just a boy's sense of humour. We tried to get interviews which boys would find interesting. We got an interview with Ridley Scott, the film director, and that was really good. Right now, I'm going to interview Dr. Boyd, the school psychiatrist.
I'm actually a psychiatrist who has specialised in child and adolescent psychiatry. That's my background. And for many years I worked with adolescents in a residential unit at one of the teaching hospitals in London. Sometimes the very young boys, when they first come to this school, feel pretty daunted by the size of the place, and they feel rather incapable of coping. Some youngsters are frankly very homesick at the start and really don't want to be at this school, and that's a difficult one. Then it goes on to the middle range of the school, who can get involved in difficulties like drinking too much alcohol or even experimenting with drugs and wanting to talk about this to a very neutral person who they know will not pass the information on because they're obviously a bit scared to talk to anybody else about it.
How do you normally deal with most of your boys' problems? I mean, the most common ones. Do you just talk them out? And...
What I try to do at first is to understand really what is bugging the boy, so to speak, what's upsetting him. And when I can get to the bottom of that and I can explain it back to him, he then begins to recognize it and says, yes, that's right, that is how I feel, that is what it's all about.
In the middle of every morning, masters gather in chambers, as it's called. It's really necessary because there are something like 136 masters, and the only way of getting information around is either to send 136 notes or to gather people together once a day.